Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we'll be talking about the game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Spurs 0, Arsenal 1. Gabriel, of course, with the only goal to give the Gunners the 3 points at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the third consecutive year. Back with me, our three returning guests. We've got Craig Dearman back with us. Craig, how are you?
Not good. Probably feeling the same as everybody else. It's going to be an interesting one tonight. Coming on after a victory, after a defeat, is never easy. But especially losing to Arsenal, it makes it double hard. So it's going to be an interesting one tonight for sure.
Also back with us, and it's been a while, is Josh Cowham. Josh, how are you?
Yeah, same as Craig. Nice to be back on, but yeah, very disappointed, as I'm sure a lot of Tottenham fans are, and you are, Chris. But yeah, should be an interesting one to dissect the game.
Also back with us is Dustin Lau, all the way from Singapore, of course, former sports editor. Dustin, how are you?
Other than game, fine. I think we all expected something good to come back to after international break, but we'll see if we can pick it up for the next two games.
Well, I should have said that we're live at the moment on YouTube, on X and on Facebook, so please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling as a Spurs fan right now and let us know what you made of that 90 minutes at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this afternoon. As I mentioned, it has finished Tottenham 0, Arsenal 1. Gabriel with a 64th minute header. Saka, of course, with the assist from the corner. Match facts and stats here. Tottenham Hotspur with 63.7% of the ball to Arsenal's 36.3%. Spurs had 15 shots in the game to Arsenal's 7. Shots on target, Spurs had 5 to Arsenal's 4. Shots off target, Spurs 4, Arsenal 0. Blocked shots, Spurs 6, Arsenal 3. Touches in the opposition box, Tottenham 29, Arsenal 23. Goalkeeper saves, Spurs 3, Arsenal 5. Aerial duels 1, Spurs 14, Arsenal 16. Fouls, Spurs 13, Arsenal 10. And corners, Spurs had 7 to Arsenal 6. Craig, let's start the show with you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game.
Wasn't good, but didn't think it was very good at all. It's all very well having more possession than the other team and more shots on target, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's, as we all know, as we've said many times, it's what you do with those chances, and we didn't do enough. I don't think we had many, hardly any cutting edge chances, or cutting edge up front and gilt edge chances. I don't remember Raya having to make many worldies today, to be honest with you. Lot of half, lot of puff, but again, just not good enough up front for me. I thought defensively we looked okay. We did control the game. You can't say we didn't. Now, whether Arsenal let us do that, and that was part of their tactic. I didn't think we were that bad at the back, other than the goal, which we'll come on to. But if you're going to bring wingers in, they've got to be able to cross the ball. I know you're saying putting it into areas, but it was so frustrating. The amount of times the crosses is just not good enough. And out of our summer signings, I think only one started. Where's Gray? Where's Bergvall? So, something's got to change. I mean, I don't think at the point where, well, I've seen some people calling for Ange to go. I'm not nowhere near that yet, but something's got to change. Solanke looked a bit rusty. He did do some good stuff. But he did look like a player coming back from injury for me. Just a shame he couldn't get his first goal for the club. But just so much again, so many wasted opportunities. We did get into a lot of good positions, but just didn't do enough with it. Didn't do anything with it on some occasions. Cut back inside. Didn't have shots where we should have done. Had shots where we shouldn't have done and passed. It's that final third again, isn't it? But what does everybody else think?
Craig, I'll tell you what, I completely agree with you. It's that final third again. I know we're going to talk about this in the next hour or so, about the chances that we created, and some players just did not want to shoot, and it was all about passing the ball in that final third and trying to score the perfect goal. And I feel like we've done that all season. I feel like we've done that a lot during last season as well. Now, after the game, I normally go down to the tunnel and filmed the players coming off the pitch. And the guy next to me, who was also doing exactly the same thing, shouted to Ange Postecoglou, tell them how to defend set pieces. And Postecoglou heard this fan say that. He didn't react. But it is frustrating. Yet another set piece goal, another Arsenal win here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And of course, as you've mentioned in the opening couple of minutes, the amount of chances that we have created this season, but just haven't converted. And it's all well and good controlling games, and it's all well and good me keep reading these superior stats out game by game, podcast by podcast. But of course, it is not winning us football matches. Josh, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game. And I feel like there's an awful lot to talk about today.
Yeah, just it's very disappointing. And you go into a North London derby, you know it's going to be an exciting game. You know you're expecting a fierce game, which I thought at times today was. But there's this huge issue, as Craig just said, with the final third. It just nothing's going right in the final third. It was absolutely shocking today, and it got to a point where it actually was quite boring after about 80 minutes of just passing sideways in that kind of outside the final third, just not going for the lethal shot. It's just, as a fan, I was just like, what is going on with this tactic? Nothing was changing. And it's just, it's not, it doesn't excite me, Chris. That's what I'm worried about, because we've got a new project here. We've had some tricky years over the past couple of years, and we've got to believe in Ange, but this is not exciting football. And Arsenal, I think, were there for the taking at half time. They haven't got their full squad in. 2 players, key players missing. I think they were for the taking there at half time, and we just didn't have that killer instinct in the final third. It's so frustrating as a fan. But Chris, like, what was the feeling in the stadium? What do you think? What do you think about that?
Josh, you just said there, Arsenal were there for the taking. Newcastle were there for the taking a couple of weeks ago. The opening weekend, the Leicester away game, Leicester City were there for the taking. As I said earlier, the stats, far more superior stats. We're creating a lot more chances than other teams, having a lot more of the ball than other teams. Funny enough, Kenny Ken, an Arsenal fan who we had on the channel midweek, he said, "You will do all the work. You'll create all these chances, but you won't score, and then of course we'll go up the other end and nick a chance, and that's exactly what's happened. But I feel like we've got to just dissect this, Josh. So we'll go through it bit by bit. Dustin, before we do that, let's get your initial thoughts on the 90 minutes today.
So I think for the 90 minutes, what's worried me the most is the quality of our chance creation. I think one of the things that we said when we got Solanke, and the idea was that you don't need the best striker in the world. You don't need Osimhen or anyone of that ilk, because we create so many chances that you wouldn't need a $100 million striker to put it away. You can get away with a 60 million striker doing that. But now we don't even have that chance creation anymore. And what's really worrying is that the chance creation that we've traditionally gone is Romero on the ball, does a through ball or something like that. We don't even have that anymore, because I don't see the runs. I don't see players being free enough to receive the ball. And then you would say, okay, we've got the inverted fullbacks. They're in the half spaces, creating chances there. Didn't see any of that today either. So I think the most worrying thing is the lack of chance creation, because we have a striker that theoretically should be able to put it away, but we're not putting it in the zones where he has a high quality chance. It's all been, 50-50s. Has been hitters with, defenders crawling all over him. So that's the part that worries me the most, and the way that we can't defend set plays as well.
Yeah. Craig, let's come to you. Let's talk about the starting 11, because, of course, Ange Postecoglou made a couple of changes today. Vicario, Pedro Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Maddison, Kulusevski, Bentancur, Son, Solanke and Johnson. Great to see Solanke and Van der Ven back in the starting 11 today. Of course, the subs today were Forster, Spence, Davis, Dragushin, Gray, Sarr, Bergvall, Odebear and Werner. And it is worth noting that Kulusevski played his 100th game for the club today. Craig, any surprises there for you today?
Not really. It's a very attacking lineup, hugely attacking. He was obviously going for it. But no, not really. I mean, as soon as we heard Bissouma was out, then it was between Bentancur and Sarr for me. He's obviously not going to be slinging in Archie Gray at the moment, or even Bergvall. So it was between one of two. Putting Kulusevski in the midfield again was good to see. I think he's better in the middle than he is on the wing, to be brutally honest. Having Son back on the left, which is his best position, and then obviously Johnson on the right. I mean, he splits the fan base, of course, we know that. But on the whole, I'd say the 11 was pretty much as I'd have expected, to be fair.
Josh, what about the starting 11 for you? Is that what you expected?
Yeah, all good. I mean, on paper, it's an exciting team. It's an attacking team, Chris. But the performance, on the other hand, was like the opposite. It was average. It was sluggish. No creativity. It's not what I'm expecting to see from those players. It's the opposite, really, which is really disappointing. And we've changed this side, Chris. This is a totally transformed side. The only player of old is Son in that team. But it just felt like a same old performance. Like you said before the chat, it's this same old Tottenham performance, just a bit sluggish, kind of not going with that killer instinct. It's so frustrating. Like I said, we can be happy with the starting lineup. We can be happy that we've got new players in there, talented, young, hungry players. But they just didn't work. It's average, Chris. It's so frustrating.
Josh, there's a lot of comments coming in at the moment live on YouTube, Facebook and X, and there is a lot of criticism for the team itself and Ange Postecoglou. I feel that the mood at the moment and the attitude from the Spurs fans is very mixed about Ange Postecoglou. A lot of people want to see him backed and want him to make Spurs a success in the future, and there is a lot of criticism for our manager right now. What do you make of it?
Look, I think Ange is rightfully getting a bit of criticism. I think if we haven't been performing like we did when he first came in. I mean, I watched a clip. If you cast your mind back to that Chelsea game, where I think we got 2 men sent off. We played some outstanding football in that game. Great attacking football, really exciting, one touch, rapid passing. Like, that was stunning to watch. I think opposition fans were even saying, like, blimey, Spurs look exciting. And then you contrast that to our performance today. Dull, boring, just no creativity. What's happened? And as a result, I think Ange has to be criticised for that. If he can get us back on that pathway where we're playing really exciting attacking football, scoring great goals, having lots of shots on target, kind of having, like I've said many times, that lethal final instinct, which was completely not there, then I think we've got to back Ange. But I can see why half the fan base is annoyed with him and the other half is kind of going, oh, we've got to back him, we've got to back him. It's a nuanced situation and it's quite difficult. However, if we go down this kind of same old Tottenham route, Coventry midweek, which I'm sure we'll go on to in the next 20 minutes, if we play like we did today and they will knock us out of the cup. We've had it before, Chris, where these lower teams knock us out because we have another sluggish performance against the lower league side. And if that happens, then the fan base is going to be absolutely fuming with Ange.
Ange Postecoglou has just come out and said, we need a bit more belief. It is up to me to fix it. Dustin, a couple of days ago, of course, Ange Postecoglou had his pre-match press conference ahead of today's game. And he said that, there is no reason why Spurs can't be competing for the Premier League title. What did you make of those comments?
I think that as a coach, you have to say that. But I think if you're grounded in reality, City have won 7 of the last 8. They've won most of the cups as well. So the number of titles that a team realistically can win against entities like that is limited. So it's something he has to say. Realistically, we're looking for other teams to have an off season just because the financial might that they have means that we don't have the wherewithal to compete in the short term. And even if we were able to spend more with FFP having fuzzy enforcement at the moment, you don't know if you spend whether you're going to get caught by FFP. You don't know if anything's actually going to happen with these charges against City. So we're in a state where we are trying to do things the right way. We're hoping FFP bears fruit, and eventually that means that we have an advantage. But at this current moment, teams can buy their way to the title, and the teams that don't have the money to buy teams and spend 100 over a million on wingers that don't work out are just stuck with having to build in a more sustainable way, which makes it difficult when other teams are basically financially doping.
Dustin, when we talk, Josh mentioned there about that Chelsea game that we lost 4-1 at the start of last season. Since that game and including that game, we have played 32 matches in the Premier League, winning 13, now losing 14 and drawing the other 5. Now, when you look at that stat, of course, the stats don't lie. That is like mid-table form. Do you worry about that, or is this just a case of this is what you have to go through during this rebuild?
So I think the part that worries me the most about that was that everyone that knew Ange Ball in like Celtic and everything was like, there will be a rough period, you'll have to go through it. It normally happens at the start. That was the complete opposite of what we've gone through. So what we've had is an amazing start, first 10 games. And then we're going through the rocky bits now. What we're not sure is whether there is a reversal from this rocky period. There is a worry that it means that 10 games was when the Premier League hadn't figured him out. And because the Premier League attracts the best managers in the world, I think there's a bit of a worry as well, which is what if they've analyzed his system and they figure it out? Because what I've noticed is that we have had certain areas where we've had joy, with the inverted wing backs, with Romero building out from the back. But the teams have analysts, they have the best coaches in the world. I feel like Premier League teams are the fastest to adapt to any tactical innovations a coach may come up with. And so we've got to be at our best at all times, because you can come up with a new tactic. Another team will come up with a counter tactic. A Brentford or a Brighton will come up with a counter tactic that works against it. And you've got to continue evolving. So the question is, Ange is now is Ange at his ceiling, or is there more progression that we can see from him to show that he can counter managers that counter his tactics as well?
Dustin, on that point, are you happy with what you've seen so far under Ange Postecoglou? Are you still fully behind him? And are you surprised that some fans are being super critical of him, his tactics, the way that Spurs are set up, even in games like this, and even after, say, 14 months of the rebuild? Because it's fair to say that he came into the football club with an absolute, he came into the football club, it was a mess. He's created, a different environment. There have been a lot of players come in the door. There have been a lot of players go out the door. How much time, realistically, do you think it is going to be before everything starts to click?
So I think I can understand why Spurs fans are frustrated. We've all been there. Especially for the older ones that have been there since the 90s, we've seen how bad it can get. So the reality is their patience is short, but it's because it's patience that's short with the club as a whole. So realistically, managers don't get as long because we're like, I've been waiting for a title since one day Ramos. That's how long we've waited for a title. I understand patience is short, but if we keep sacking managers before they've had a chance to turn things around, we're also shooting ourselves in the foot, and then we're starting the cycle of a rebuild from zero again. So if we look at Pep, if we look at Arteta, when they started, they had ropey seasons, and they spent a lot of money for 2 ropey seasons, 2 8th-place finishes. But now you've seen Arsenal starting to challenge for the title 2 seasons in a row, and potentially this season as well. So as much as it is irritating that we're going through difficult results, if we just keep sacking managers, we're just restarting the cycle from zero, and then we've got to wait another 2 years of transition, 3 years of transition. How good would the Pochettino become, but how long did he take to get there? Well, it still took him a season and a half, 2 seasons. So I think we've got to give a bare minimum. There are managers you should cut off early, like Nuno, or if we hired Gattuso, for example. But if you see that there's a vision and you see that the manager has an idea that isn't overly simplistic and he's able to evolve and adapt his tactics, then you should stick with the manager and give him the support that he needs, and particularly the signings that he needs. And I think one ray of light I see is that our signings now are improving a lot. And maybe it's not signings that are good now. But you've seen from Sa and Udogi, you sign someone, you loan them back. In a year, they come back and they're first team players. I know that people want a signing for now, but those signings are really expensive. Whereas we have now our Bergvals, we have Odo Bears, we have all these signings that we've signed, loan them out, come back, and now they're going to be first team players or should be first team players in a year or two. It gets us in a place where we have a chain of talent that matures at the same time, and then we can start going on runs as long as we have some stability at the club.
I've got to admit, Dustin, I would have expected more in the transfer window in terms of players to come in and doing it now, rather than I get the planning for the future, etc., etc. But we've had so many discussions on this podcast in the last couple of months during the transfer window and since the transfer window that I just feel that we should have done a little bit more in that transfer window because 20 minutes to go in today's game, you're looking at the bench and you're thinking, who are the game changers? And then when Timo Werner's coming on, I don't know, a lot of people were groaning around me, and I'm sure a lot of people were groaning all around the world watching the game on the TV.
Can I tell you what happened in the commentary? In the commentary, I actually have it in the notes. In the commentary, Spurs need a bit of quality, and then they cut to Timo Werner putting a strip on. I was like,
yeah. Craig, let's come to you. There's a comment here from Toxic Headshot, and it says, this football is boring. What has changed? What has changed at Tottenham Hotspur for you? I know there's been a lot of players go out the door, but that was meant to be a positive. The players coming in the door is meant to be a huge positive. The football is boring. A lot of people are saying this in the comments. I've just picked this one out, but a lot of people have said that it was boring football today. What's happened under Postecoglou for it to be like this and the fans to feel like this? Because I know, you and I talk every day about Spurs, and we've mentioned to each other in the last couple of weeks that so early on in the season, this is when all of us are meant to be feeling really, really excited about the season. Europe hasn't even started yet. The Carabao Cup hasn't started yet. I know Josh said, we're playing Coventry on Wednesday. That's going to be an interesting team selection, which we'll talk about. But everyone is meant to feel excited at this stage of the season.
Yeah, it is a bit weird. You could have, if this had been the start last season, then I think people would have been a bit more upbeat, to be honest, because we, as Dustin said, you expected that first year of Ange, but we started like a train last season, as we know. Going back to what you said about players going out the door, it's all very well, and we know we did well to get the players out. We did bring players in, but only one of them started today. So that team is the same team as last year, bar Solanke. So, yeah, it's all very well buying players for the future, which I'm all on board with. But if you're leaving Gray on the bench, if you're leaving Bergvall on the bench and not bringing them on at all, then that's the same team as last year. And we started, obviously, a coming back from injury. Solanke, he didn't have a brilliant pre-season either. So he's not going to be as sharp yet. So, and I know Richarlison's injured again, which is another story. I wouldn't have preferred to see Son through the middle today. I've never said that's his best position, and Solanke was the right call. I think we all agreed and would agree having him and Van der Ven back should have been a massive boost. And I was expecting better football. You're right.
Especially when they're missing Rice and Odegaard, which we haven't mentioned.
100%. Yeah, but as I said to you, Chris, I would have actually preferred it if they were both playing, because I don't think you never ever know where you are unless you play a team that's got all their players out on the pitch fit. I mean, if they had been there today, God, would Arsenal have turned us over? I think they probably would have done even worse, to be honest. I think Arsenal came with a game plan today. They were sitting back. I think what Arteta did was said to them, look, we're comfortable. We're comfortable with our defence. We know we've got a good defence. Yes, we're missing our two best midfielders, probably two best players. But let's sit back. We know we can soak up the pressure. Spurs aren't very good trying to get in behind us. We're just going to sit deep, let them come at us and deal with what they throw at us. And we didn't utilise the wingers far near enough in that first half. We was trying to go through the middle. There was no space. And then when we did utilise the wingers in the second half, the wingers weren't doing their job properly. The wingers weren't crossing the ball accurately. It was just slung in. I would say Solanke was making runs, and he did have a couple of chances, which I'm sure will come on to. But I wouldn't say the football's boring. I'd rather watch this football than the Conte and Mourinho football. But it's not probing enough for me. There's no real creativity where people are playing through balls, pinpoint through balls, what they call it, the XG thing, that, you know, the chances that really create something, dangerous attacks, you know. I just wasn't seeing that today.
Craig, is this a fair comment? Don't talk about the players. It is now the matter of the coach, because there's a lot of comments coming in right now saying very, very similar, saying about it is about the coaching side of things rather than the actual players. But we've spoken at length about this in the opening 3 games of the season before today. We have created a number of chances, and we should have been sitting here 3 wins out of 3 with 9 points, because we had more than enough chances at Newcastle to win the game. Leicester, of course, and of course we beat Everton here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So we have created chances in those 3 games. Today was slightly different. Of course, Solanke was back, and as you've mentioned, he didn't use the wingers in the right way. What more could Ange Postecoglou done today? And is there any part of you that is now doubting Ange in any way?
I wouldn't say doubting him. It's clear to me perhaps these players just aren't good enough for his system. Some of our players. I think there's only so much training you can give any player, to be honest. I think Ange is stubborn in his tactics. I would like us to have more of a plan B, to be honest with you, because that clearly wasn't working today. There was at no point today I thought we was going to score. There's been some games, even this season, where I thought, yeah, do you know what? I'm not bothered when we're going to score. We're going to get back into it. I did not see at any point in that game today where I thought we're going to score a goal. It was just one of those games where I just felt weren't going to happen. The manager takes the ultimate responsibility. Of course he does, for results. And ultimately, if we continue on a bad run of results, no doubt Daniel Levy's going to pull the trigger and get rid. I really hope he doesn't, because we're back to square one if that happens. I really hope he sticks with him. Be interested to see what the people and the viewers and listeners are thinking about it, because I think everybody's got opinions on this. I think it's probably a mixture of both, the coach and the players. Sometimes the players are not performing what he tells them to do, and just come out many times and said we're not being clinical enough. I just think we're not very good in the final third at the moment, and it's an ongoing theme, isn't it?
There's a comment here from Ange Postecoglou on Gabriel's winner. He said it wasn't just Romero, a couple of others switched off as well. We paid a price for it, which of course is extremely frustrating. He also said, I think I've said my piece, for the most part, we controlled the game today, had good territory and possession, but we didn't make the most of it and we got punished. I think that's been the story of our season so far. Craig, I know you've got a number of images that you'd like to put on the screen talking about tactical play today. Did you want to start that before I start the match instance?
Well, really, it's just really about Timber's challenge. So we can go through that now, because I thought that was the really tacticals. I think kind of we've covered this, and I can show you instances of chances we've had. Just firstly, let me show you this. This is the Timber challenge on Pedro Porro. Now, for me, I don't know what you all think. This is another one. This is probably a better image. For me, that's a red card. He's gone over the top of the ball. Yes, obviously images are slightly different, but for me, he's gone over the top of the ball. He does put his foot on the ball, but he does catch Porro. I don't know what you guys think. Josh, what do you think? Do you think that should have been a red?
Yeah, I agree with you. Seeing that image now as well, it's the exact same thing as Curtis Jones, isn't it? Liverpool against Spurs. He did the exact same thing and got sent off for it. So it's just, again, inconsistent refereeing. And then to add on to that, he got booked for that challenge, but then he went over about 10 seconds after, grabbed Vicario with 2 hands and chucked him about, and obviously created a bit of a scuffle and a bit of a fight. That's a second booking. That may not be for some refs, they might not give that as a straight red, but I think he should have got booked twice there and sent off in that incident.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you make of it, Dustin?
You've seen them given, but on the other hand, it's one of those things where it depends on how the referee interprets what he's trying to do. And if I think this is the problem, right? When the referees have to kind of put themselves in the player's mind, that's where you have problems, because it's not objectivity anymore. You're like, did he mean it? And is he that kind of player? Which isn't what referees are supposed to be doing. Referees are supposed to be making black and white decisions. They're not supposed to be going, if I was the player, was I trying to step on him or was I trying to step on the ball? It doesn't make sense for refereeing decisions to come down to that kind of telepathy, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it should be a red. If you're stepping on someone's foot, it should be a red. If you're going to say it's got to be mandatory or not.
I think it was the way he went in for me, the intent there, and the way he went in. Like you say, you've seen these given, and I just think that was a red card personally. But a lot of these.
As a cynical person, I would say that if I know that referees are sometimes going to give me a chance if I claim to be stepping on the ball, then you know that there are players that are that kind of player, like Matty Cash or whatever, and they will pretend to step on the ball just to get someone. So my point is there shouldn't be this grey area.
Chaps, if we did kind of get him sent off, do you think we would have scored? Because I genuinely think we could have played for 12 hours and not scored. The way we were playing, just passing it about. We weren't going to score anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
They would have tightened up, and they would have tightened up, because the 10 men tighten up more than 11 do. 11 play with freedom, 10 don't.
I think you're right. Yeah, I said that, Josh. I said exactly the same thing. And then obviously Arsenal had several chances in that first half. This one, Martinelli freed down the left-hand side. Porro missed his clearance, and that went close, basically. If he'd squared that earlier to Saka.
Martinelli gave Porro a lot of problems.
He did.
Yeah.
And he's not rated by a lot of Arsenal fans. That's the funny thing. Ken said, I don't think he's his biggest fan, but he played well today. And, of course, down the other end, and we will come on to these points, that was the Solanke header that just went wide of the post. So we had a couple of chances, but sadly, we just didn't take them. So yeah, I've got a few more images to show later on of the goal, which we can dive into a bit deeper. Mute, Chris.
Josh, let's start with you. Let's go through the match instance, because I felt that Spurs actually started the game well. I felt that the crowd were up for it, and I've been saying all week that the crowd have got to be up for these sorts of games, especially when, I said earlier, Arsenal missing 2 of their key players today. So they were there for the taking. It started with a huge cheer in the first minute, because Arsenal had a corner very, very early on, and we defended it away and headed it away. And that was what the huge cheer was for. There was a bit of sarcasm in there, as if to say, we can defend a set piece, and we've done it in the first minute. What did you make of Tottenham's defending today?
Yeah, just to start, I thought the atmosphere sounded really good. Obviously, wasn't there, you are. But on the TV, sounding really good. Fans sounding really excited, and that's what you want to hear in a North London derby. It's got to be the loudest atmosphere of the season, really, in a home game. But defensively, I thought we did actually show some quite decent defending. I thought Mickey van der Ven and Romero did actually clear quite a few chances where Arsenal got in behind us quite easily. And then they showed some kind of individual brilliance, especially Mickey van der Ven, kind of showing off his pace a bit. He's obviously a very quick player. And he cleared quite a few chances. And Romero, despite his terrible mistake for Gabriel's header and not marking him properly, I thought defensively they're quite solid. At the end of the day, it was only 1-0. You can't really moan too much about Tottenham's defensively. There weren't kind of defensive woes from us. I think in general, as a team, as we've just been discussing, is it the players? Is it the team? What does Ange have to do? I think Ange's tactics, defensively and in attack, have been kind of found out. And I think it's shown every single time an opposition side gets a set piece, because they know that we're in danger. As soon as it's a set piece, the commentators straight away target Vicario and look at him, he's flying around, his hands are in the air. we're kind of weak. We're very weak with these set pieces and corners, and that is at the end of the day where Arsenal got their goal with Gabriel. But it's not just that. I think there's three kind of facets to how we've been found out. First, it's this set pieces and this weakness with Vicario. That's one of the main reasons. But also individual mistakes. I think, like you spoke to that fan, the Arsenal fan, who said, "You can do your football, and we'll pounce and we'll kind of take the advantage off a Spurs mistake." And we do seem to make a lot of individual errors, like today, Romero, massive individual errors, and that also plays into the kind of, we can play this great kind of attacking football in the first and the second third, passing it around quite nicely, but then the other side just sits back. It keeps happening to us, Chris. These teams are parking the bus, and we can have 60% of the possession, but they know that they can do us on the counter or do us on a set piece. So I worry that we've been found out, Chris. And if Ange doesn't change his tactics, then this is going to keep happening all season.
I don't think he will, though. Sorry, I don't think he will, Josh. That's the thing. He said many times he ain't going to change. You know,
that's what worries me.
I have a point about the set piece, right? So the problem with the set pieces, and I see a lot of people saying that Vicario should be stronger. When I saw Arsenal setting up for the set piece before they even took the corner, I knew exactly what they were going to do, because Vicario had no one in front of him. There were 5 sets of Arsenal players behind him. So when 5 Arsenal players are blindsiding you, it means that they're going to rush him once the ball is in the air. So what happened when the Arsenal corner was taken? 4 different sets of Arsenal players ran to block Vicario off, and the 5th was was Gabriel, who ran and took the header. So Vicario is not jumping over 4 sets of Arsenal players that have gone deliberately to block him off. That's one thing. So we've also got to recognize the situation that they've isolated Vicario as a weakness, and they know they're going to use players to block him off. So Romero shouldn't be losing the only man that is not going to block Vicario off. That's one thing.
Dustin, does it bother you about Vicario saying last year we don't care about clean sheets? And of course, Ange in the press conference a couple of days ago said we're not worried about conceding more, and we will concede more than others, but it's about scoring more up the other end. But I feel like we've covered this a lot on the podcast recently. But if you haven't got that real quality, and I keep reverting back to, if we have the defence that we've got now, with the attack that we had in the 94-95 season with Jurgen Klinsmann and Teddy Sheringham and Anderton and Barnby and so on up there, you know, that you could always rely on scoring week after week. Can we rely on this final third set up to constantly get goals? Because even Heung-min Son, these are his comments just now in the last couple of minutes. We dominated the game, the football was there, but we conceded from a set piece again. We did it last season, and it is really frustrating. I'm sure the fans are also very frustrated and disappointed. We have to improve 100%. It's a tough moment, and we have to stick together. We're getting into the final third, but the players have to take the responsibility to score. It is the hardest part of football, making the right decision and being clinical. We will bounce back strong. There is a long way to go. Now, talking about taking chances in that final third, what is it for you? And I know we'll get into it in more depth, but what is it for you that the fact that we are trying to score the most perfect goal, players keep passing it sideways rather than, you know, even when they've got a clear-cut opportunity to have a good shot at goal, they choose to pass it sideways to another player?
What I don't understand about our chance creation is how we seem to be going down very, very specific avenues to do it, which is either Romero builds up from back, and right now, whenever Romero is in the center circle and waiting for the opposition to press him so that he has an opportunity to do it, they know that that's what's going to happen, so they're not doing it at all. So what happens is he goes to the flank, the person in the flank goes down, gives up, passes it back. I'm surprised I don't see Ange shouting, 70 times a game, stop passing it back, because that's all that's happening whenever it goes down the flanks. We don't see the incisive runs from the inverting fullbacks anymore. So I'm just failing to see where the chance creation comes from, because we don't have that many players that can actually play the 1-2 passes when we go inside. So we're stuck with Romero trying to do the through passes, going down the flanks and coming back. Whereas we need players like Bergvall, like Gray, like Madison, and we need them in the center so we can pass through the opposition, because right now we're just skirting the sides of the opposition, we're flanking them, we're never cutting inside.
Craig, how do you feel about this? Because Stephen writes here, can the panel name me a team that's won a league with a poor defence? City, Liverpool, United, Arsenal, etc. have all won the league with solid defences. What do you make of the attitude that Ange Postecoglou has in terms of, don't worry, we'll concede more, but that was his exact words, I'm comfortable with that. It's okay if you've got a world-class, final third who are literally taking chance after chance after chance, but we don't.
No, spot on. Do you know what? Ironically for me, if this had been Son, Bale and Kane, whereas Sonny was a few years younger, Kane obviously at the peak of his powers, which you could argue he still is, and Gareth Bale, my God, I think this could have been someone a bit different. All right, Bale couldn't press and Harry Kane's not brilliant at it, but you'd adapt. And look, our front three is just not good enough, pretty much, because I think we all agree Vicario is a pretty good goalkeeper. He's got his faults and he has his moments. But shot stopping, I think he's one of the best in the league. The back four, Van der Ven, absolute quality. Romero, who we'll come on to, I've got my doubts about. I'm starting a few doubts creeping in about Romero. He's put in a few solid challenges. Udogi's a pretty good left back. I'd take him, and I'd take Porro. I think he's been brilliant. So that our back four, I don't think is the issue as such. It's again set pieces our undoing. How many times we discussed this in the week, and people said we were being negative. There you go. That's why we discussed it. We conceded from a set piece. We highlighted where the problems were, and it's come back to bite us on the arse again. And as you said, the perfect storm. We can't score. If we'd scored 2 or 3 goals today and conceded from a set piece, people wouldn't be up in arms about it. But we didn't score, and that is again our problem. We all thought, we're bringing in wingers with good stats, blah blah blah. It's not happened yet. And I say yet because it still could. But we're 4 games in and we've got 4 points. We're in the bottom half of the fledgling table, admittedly. But we are 8 points behind Manchester City already. I know we've got no aspirations to win the league. I certainly haven't. Ange will tell you that we have. But we all know realistically we are nowhere near Manchester City, Arsenal or Liverpool. All right, Liverpool lost yesterday. And, there's a load of games to go. But going back to your question, it is a bit alien thinking that. And the old song, we're going to score 1 more than you. That's absolutely fine. And I'll be fine with that. If our attack could score goals and score them, bang them in week after week after week, 2-3 goals a game, I haven't got a problem with it. But you've got to get that part right before you can say about the conceding part.
I think you've banged the nail on the head there, Craig. I think as Spurs fans, it's quite difficult. You just said, obviously, we've gone from Harry Kane, Gareth Bale and Son up front to players, although they can come good and they can improve, but at the end of the day, we've brought in players from Burnley in Odegaard, Bournemouth, Solanke, and Forest, not Brennan Johnson. They are nowhere near the quality level of Harry Kane, like you said, at the peak of his career. Gareth Bale, in the kind of in the dying days of his career, and a youngish Son. I think it's really tricky for us Tottenham fans. We've had this great attack, even in the days of Dele Alli, Eriksen, Kane, Son. The quality is not there anymore. We've lost that quality, and I think I totally agree with what you said with our defence. I think our defence now is the best it's been since we had that amazing back four in Rose, Walker, Alderweireld and Vertonghen. I think in the period since we've lost them, the defence we have now is the best. So I don't think they're the issue. I think what we have now is the attacking issue. And if we can't kind of get these attacking players to start scoring some decent goals and kind of improving in quality, then we're in a bit of trouble. Because we are going to literally we're going to be an average team with this kind of average players up front. And we've lost this world-class edge that we used to have with Kane, with a kind of younger Sonny, and with players from the past. And I don't know where we go from here, because we're either going to slide into mediocrity or improve, and we have to improve.
Can I just answer this question here from JJJ? So Craig wants us to park the bus and hope we score a goal to win. That's called. I didn't say about parking the bus. I haven't said anything about parking the bus. In fact, I said our defence is pretty good. It's all about scoring the goals. That's what I'm saying. It's all very well conceding goals, but you've got to score them up the other end.
Chris, if you don't mind, I just want to answer that question as well. So I think that stepping back from this game, we're all a bit emotional because of the game that went on. But stepping back from this game, I think what we're seeing is that the trend is attacking coaches win. Because we've seen with Conte, we've seen with Mourinho that keeping it tight at the back and hitting counter-attacks doesn't win you leagues anymore. There was a point in time where it did. It doesn't anymore, and it's the Klopps and the Guardiolas and these kinds of attacking coaches. And the reason for that is City has made it such that if you don't get over 85 points, you're not getting anywhere close to the league. That's why if you want to win a league, you have to be an attacking team because you can't afford to rely on draws and keeping it tight to make 85 points. So you've got to go for the 3 points, even if it means sometimes you get 0, because if you're not always trying for 3 points, you're not going to win the league. So that's broadly why you need an attacking coach if you want to be anywhere near the top 4 or winning the league. Now, going back to every point, I agree with everything else. If you're going for 3 and constantly getting 0, then that's a big problem. So we need to sort out other parts of our play. But overall, if you want a successful team, you do have to be an attacking team because of the way our league is right now.
And Postecoglou in his press conference has naturally been asked about set pieces again, and it sounds like he's very frustrated about the questions about it. He said, I know for some reason people think I don't care about set pieces, and it's a narrative that you keep going on about for ages and ages. I understand that. Like I said, we work on them all the time, like we do for every other team. You know that they are a threat. As I've said, for the most part, we handled them really well today, but we switched off once and we paid a price, and you learn from that. Dustin, can I ask you about, because on social media today, a lot that I've seen since the game has ended, Christian Romero has been heavily criticised for the goal that we conceded today. He was criticised for the Leicester goal that we conceded. Again, he was criticised for the Newcastle winner a couple of weeks ago for playing such that high line and his body position. But Ange Postecoglou has said that he is our best defender. If everyone was like him, then it would be great. What have you made of the criticism aimed at Romero this season?
So again, we've just lost a game because of a goal that was conceded through his mistake. When you play in an Ange system, defenders are going to have to defend in very dicey situations a lot more than normal. We've seen how many times Van der Ven has to come back to make like last minute clearances that no other defender can make because of his pace. So I think that part of it is we're exposing defenders to a much higher likelihood of making mistakes because of the way we play. So when we criticize our defenders, we also need to be aware that we are expecting them to perform well in much harder situations than teams that play more defensively, because teams that play more defensively would not put their defenders through that kind of exposure. So Romero is an extremely aggressive defender. I mean, if you say like there are archetypes of defenders like cat and dog, and Romero is the dog that will chase the bone and break down the play before it becomes threatening. So Romero's aggression is critical in doing that, such that the rest of the team doesn't need to come back and defend it. So I think that's what Ange means when he says that Romero is good at his job, because Romero allows him to play such an aggressive style without having to have the whole defense track back. Van der Ven then has the recovery pace to help if Romero doesn't make it. I think the biggest issue I have with Romero now is I wish that he was aggressive aerially like he is in a 50-50. Sometimes in a 50-50, he's way too aggressive, but there are a lot of times that Romero in the air just kind of tracks his man halfway and just doesn't follow it to the end conclusion. So I don't know what it is, but I feel that he needs to be coached specifically about set pieces or about not losing his man in an aerial battle, because I wish he was as vicious in aerial battles as he is when there's a 50-50 with, an Argentinian teammate, for example.
Craig, what did you make of Mickey van der Ven? Great to see him back in a Spurs shirt this afternoon. Saved us a couple of times today.
Yeah. For me, Spurs man of the match again. Running out of stuff to say about the guy. Actually, there was one time in the second half, I think it was, Romero was caught on his heels a little bit. He wasn't necessarily out of position, but I can't remember. I think it was Martinelli was going through, and Van der Ven just come from nowhere, like roadrunner, and just tackled him. Just shows what a difference he makes in that back four. When Ange says Romero's our best defender, I mean, we might disagree with a manager. I personally think it's Mickey van der Ven. Not sure where we'd be without him, to be honest.
Let's get back to the match itself. After 5 minutes, we had a great chance. Solanke to Son to Kulusevski. He had a shot saved by David Raya. A couple of minutes later, Raya with another save, cross from the right. Kulusevski got on the end of it again. Josh, what do you make of Kulusevski today and him in that central role?
I think he got on the ball quite a lot, influenced play quite a lot, but he just didn't have that kind of impact that we wanted. It's a strange one, Kulu, because I was kind of getting a bit frustrated with him, but he was getting involved. He got in the way quite a few times. There was a chance where he kind of fumbled a chance for someone else to take a shot. Like we said, the most important thing is for players to actually shoot rather than keep passing sideways and sideways and sideways. And I think he was at fault there. But yeah, in general, I wasn't too displeased with Kulu. I think he just does lack that pace that we probably need in that central position, especially if our wingers aren't doing what we want them to do. But yeah, in general, I just don't understand why we didn't take more shots, Chris. Why Kulu didn't pick up the ball and take more shots. You look to Villa. Look at Aston Villa. They scored an absolute belter against Everton. Duran picked up the ball from about 40 yards out and absolutely smashed it into the top corner. We didn't really have a chance to do that today. We just passed sideways or backwards. We've got to do that. I'm not saying that I understand that football has become a kind of game of chess now, and it feels like Tottenham were just playing chess today with their passing. Just pass sideways after sideways ball. Felt like when we used to play at Wembley, we did that quite a lot. We've got to take more chances, Chris, and Kulu as well has got to shoot more, and he's got a good shot on him. I remember when he started at Spurs and he scored quite a lot of goals in his beginning because he would actually cut inside and take a shot, and he stopped doing that, Chris. He's got to start doing that again, and with all those players up front and in midfield have got to do that. James Maddison, another one, just didn't even have a shot today. He's got a great shot on him. He was superb at Leicester with his kind of long strikes and outside the box. Had nothing today.
And Son is one of the best in the world at that as well. The thing is, Son is also one of the best in the world at that. So what I'm wondering is, where have the long shots gone? Have people looked at Matt Letizia and, long shots do that to you, so let's not shoot at all? It doesn't make sense to me, because we have some of the best long shooters in the world in our team, and they're not shooting. And you need to vary it up. I understand that you don't want to waste the build-up play and shoot, and then it's a low percentage shot, and the rest of the team's like, you've wasted the chance. But at the same time, if you don't shoot from long range, you're not going to pull defenders out to block your shot, because they just know they will never shoot, just pack it tight. And that's why we have no space in the box. It's too congested to get anything through.
Another comment here from Ange Postecoglou. He said, we're disappointed. It was a big game for us and our supporters. So losing the game is disappointing and painful. We played it in the right areas, but didn't execute in the final third. Now, talking about that, Dustin, let's stay with you. After 14 minutes, Dominic Solanke, I felt what a great opportunity for him to not only shoot, get it on target, but to score his first Tottenham Hotspur goal in the Premier League in a Spurs shirt. Excellent pressing to win the ball back. It ended up at Dominic Solanke's feet. A perfect opportunity for him to have a shot. If you haven't got your main striker shooting at goal in an opportunity like that, what hope do we have?
Yeah, I think that the problem, I think, that is we've been spoiled by Son and Kane, because Son and Kane, in terms of statistics, they have outperformed their XG, meaning that XG thinks that you have this likelihood of scoring a goal. Son and Kane are the only two players that have outperformed it in the last 8 seasons. So we are used to strikers that are clinical beyond statistics. Statistics say this shouldn't happen, they should regress to the mean. Son and Kane have not. So we're going from strikers that always outscore their XG to strikers that are normal or maybe even less than the XG now. So we will be frustrated because we've been used for like, oh, Son is through, Kane is through, that's a goal. We have to calibrate ourselves to the fact that we don't have a striker like that anymore, unfortunately.
Craig, what did you make of Arsenal today?
I just thought they came with a plan and executed it. I think they probably would have took a draw today, but they were hoping to just get us on the break. They were definitely playing counter-attacking football. Yes, we had a majority of possession, the lion's share of possession. As I say, I'm not sure that their plan wasn't to let us have that possession, or whether we were just better at it than them. But they came with a plan, and I think they were fairly confident they could keep no goals conceded, and see if they can nick one from a set piece or a breakaway. And ultimately, that's what they did. They got one from the corner. I didn't think they were fantastic. I've seen them play better. I think we did interrupt their flow a fair bit because they couldn't play their normal game that they're used to playing. But I do think they came with a plan, and for that, you've got to say fair play. But as I say, I don't think they were brilliant. I thought they were there for the taking if we'd been more clinical, to be honest.
I tell you, for me personally, one thing that did really frustrate me was an incident after 18 minutes because we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, and that's what led to Newcastle's second goal. Spurs just not really being awake at the point where they took a quick free kick, and somehow we get off of it, and Vicario saved. A minute later, Martinelli was clean through, Vicario saved. On 28 minutes, James Maddison crossed into the box. You mentioned this earlier, Craig. You showed the picture, Solanke header. Raya racing to save it, but it went wide. Josh, what did you make of Dominic Solanke today, and what have you made of him in a Spurs shirt so far? Because, of course, he's only played 2 games out of 4.
Yeah, I thought he looked a bit rusty today, just because obviously he's been coming back from injury. But the early kind of signs are encouraging. I mean, I thought his hold-up play was quite all right for a player coming back from injury. Like you said a couple of minutes ago, that chance that came to him and he kind of hesitated, didn't make a quick decision that you need from your 9. Poor. He should have one touch, bang, and that wasn't there today. But hopefully that comes with match fitness. And look, he scored quite a lot of goals for Bournemouth. I think it was 19 goals last season. He's a talented striker. He's got the physicality. He's a tall, quick player. We haven't seen that yet. Like you said, he's only played 2 games. We need to see more from him. And I think if I was Ange, I'd start him on Wednesday. Give him game time. Give him that confidence, because in a striker, you need confidence. And after that game, that's going to degrade the confidence a little bit. So I would start him. Even if you play him for 65 minutes against Coventry and he gets a couple of goals, then take that form into the next Prem game. I think it's against Brentford. Get another one against Brentford. Get him on a run. If we can't do that, then it's just going to be another Spurs striker like Janssen, who just can't kind of get into the groove and never will. It seems like no one's ever going to kind of take the mantelpiece off Harry Kane. But I think he's got the talent to do it, Dominic Solanke, and I hope he can, because he obviously showed it at Bournemouth last year, and we're better than Bournemouth. And he's going to have players around him who can provide him with better chances if we play decently.
Josh, on 30 minutes, James Maddison also had a chance, very similar to Dominic Solanke, where he could have had a shot, could have had a pop at goal, but he looked for the pass. I know I keep asking the same question to all of you here, but why do you think that is? Because we are literally trying to score like the perfect goal. Why are these players not shooting, and why is Ange Postecoglou not shouting at them to shoot? Because everyone else in the stadium is.
I don't get it, Chris. It must be Ange. I mean, it must, in training, behind the scenes, they must be trying to, like I said, play chess. And it doesn't really work like that. Like Dustin said, sometimes you just got to take a shot. Just take a shot. And those players are talented individuals who've got the capability to whack it in the top bins. Mickey van der Ven, I think, against Man United, scored a cracking goal. I think it was last season, top bin. Pedro Porro's got a great shot on him. Put him in a position, play him in, cut inside, put it in the top bin. We're just lacking that kind of making a risk, taking a risk. We don't take any risks. It's like, there was some quotes, wasn't there, from Daniel Levy about data. and kind of bringing in players based on data, not know-how. I think we talked about David Pliat, and it was linked to that. But it feels like they've been told that the data kind of says you've got to have this perfect pass in, and then you've got to walk it in the net, basically. But actually, football's not all about that. You need that bit of attacking talent and a bit of kind of graft and a bit of kind of a moment where you whack it in the top bin, and that's what makes football so exciting. And you know what? I think that's one of the reasons why everyone says it's so boring, because all we do is pass it sideways. It then gets to the box. Arsenal have got like 11 players in the box, and nothing happens. No one's taking a risk, so it's just boring football. If you take no risks in life, or if you don't do anything with a risk, then you're going to live a boring life. And that is what we see with Tottenham at the moment, I think.
I think there's a part of this where you remember during Conte and Mourinho, there will be times that we would play very defensively, and the coach would come out at the press conference. I never told them to do that. They're doing it on their own. And then it was revealed later that like Conte would be shouting at people in training for just losing the ball or something like that. So I think it's one of those things where the coach may say they have philosophy, but possibly in training or the way that they give feedback during the match, it may have inconsistencies that result in players thinking in their mind, he may say this, but he actually wants this. So I wonder whether there's a way that we're training, or whether there's a way that we are doing things behind the scenes where they are cultivating towards that kind of a perfect goal or trying to walk it in. And maybe it's just that sometimes if you have lots of training sessions that are fixated around combination play and all of that, you just think, okay, I got to do the combination play pass because this is clearly what we train for. And they don't really go for screamers in training, for example. So maybe you might score a screamer in training, but it's not applauded. It's not something that you train for. There's no long distance shooting training. So then it gets ingrained in the player's mind that that's not the way we want to play. We want to play what they've been coaching us to play, which is combination play, perfect goal stuff.
After 32 minutes, Rodrigo Bentancur was given a yellow card. Extremely soft yellow card, I might add. One of the softest I've seen in the Premier League. On 43 minutes, Brennan Johnson was played in. His shot was blocked. He had another chance as well that he blasted over the bar just before the half-time break. Dustin, what have you made of Brennan Johnson in a Spurs shirt so far? Because I've got to say, I really want it to work for him at Spurs, but I keep writing down the same thing week after week. Brennan Johnson's crosses are blocked, and he doesn't seem to hit the target enough for me. What have you made of him in a Spurs shirt, and how confident are you that he can be improved under the management of Postecoglou?
So I have general observations about Johnson, but I think a lot of it is the combination of players that he has to play with. So the thing about Porro is that Porro is a player that he is the most similar to Trent in his ability to do a deep cross that has high quality, but he almost never does it. If he did it more, players would have to press Porro more, and then they would leave space for Johnson, and Johnson would be free because Johnson doesn't have the confidence to take on his men. So it feels to me that Johnson frequently gets the ball when all he has as an option is to pass back because he doesn't have the guts to take on his men. Whereas if Porro played more in an active role doing deep crosses, and maybe this is where it is in conflict with Ange's style, which is I don't want a high cross, I prefer a cutback. But if Porro did more of his high quality deep crosses the way that he can, then defenders would have to press Porro more, and that would leave a gap, which they can then release Johnson on. And then Johnson would have less players to beat, he can do a cutback. So for me, it's the lack of variety in the way we play. Similar to how I think if you had more long shots, defenders have to press up, leave spaces, and then you can attack through them. But if teams go, Spurs never shoot from long range, or Porro never crosses from deep, then they don't press, you don't have space. So I think we need more variety in our play, because the variety, it isn't because you think it's the best way to score, but it's to give players enough fear that they have to press, and then it creates space. I feel that we're better on the left than we are on the right. We're better on the right than we are on the left, even though the left we have higher quality players, but the right, for some reason, we have a better balance of their abilities and abilities to create space for each other.
Craig, I think Dustin is absolutely spot on about the pressing, because that's something that I have been really impressed with in every single game so far this season. Our pressing has been exceptional, but when you're winning the ball back, especially in that final third, we go back to it again, you've got to be clinical. you know, there's no point pressing and you know, creating these chances and you know, running and winning the ball back if you're not going to put the ball in the net.
Yeah, I can put it better myself. As we've said many times. And look, as I say, I haven't got a problem with the tactics as such. I would like to see a bit more of a plan B, and I think it's more important to have a plan B when plan A doesn't work, because the players aren't either good enough to carry out the manager's instructions to the letter of the law and do it well. Because what else is there? How many crosses? I'd love to know how many crosses we put in that were blocked today, or shots that were against players' legs. I just find it so frustrating. We're having shots when you know the shot isn't on. We're talking about having shots, and we want them to have shots. Yeah, longer shots, as Dustin was saying. We've got the players to do it. But some of the shots, they just weren't there to be had. Some of the crosses, they weren't there to be had. You know? Just how many times did it hit a player's leg and just rebound out for a throw-in or something like that? And I know you're saying, yeah, well, look, at least they're getting the crosses in. The crosses aren't good enough. I'm old enough to remember, and I would imagine most people that watch this channel, perhaps not Josh, when David Beckham was in his pomp, the crosses he used to put in were so accurate compared to the crosses we put in. I'd love to see the figures. I'm just using Beckham as an example because he was one of the best in the business at it. But it's just got to be better. And if these players aren't good enough, which I'm beginning to think perhaps they're not good enough, then we need to bring in players that are good enough to do this job. It's all very well looking at data, but I'm like David Pleat always said, you got to look at your eyes as well, you know. For me, I'm beginning to question whether these players can carry out Angie's instructions well enough to make the system work. That's what I'm saying.
But it's an interesting point, Craig, as you mentioned. Only one out of the starting 11 was a new signing from last year. I think that says a lot. Kulusevski and Van der Ven were both given a yellow card. Ange Postecoglou on the sidelines. When I looked down, he was head in the hands. Couldn't believe the decision of the referee, Jared Gillett, giving both of them yellow cards. So, of course, it was 0-0 at half-time. Spurs were on 5 yellow cards at that point at the half-time break. Now, in the second half, just after the break, Arsenal put in a dangerous cross. Vicario equal to it. After 49 minutes, a cross in from the right. Van der Ven headed towards goal. On 58 minutes, Brennan Johnson's cross again blocked. I tell you what, the amount of time I've written that line down in the last 12 months, Brennan Johnson's cross blocked, is unbelievable. I just hope that he can deliver a lot better in the future. Josh, let's come to you. Let's talk about the goal. 64 minutes, Saka, corner, Gabriel, set piece again. What did you make of it?
I thought they looked dangerous on their set pieces all day, and all game. And I thought we looked kind of squeamish and a bit scared. I think the commentator on the TV said it quite well. It looked like Spurs had white faces. They were kind of very nervous on those corners and set pieces. Disappointing. As we said, it was a massive mistake from Romero, losing his man. And we all say, oh, he's a great player. Ange says he's the best defender at Spurs, but that's a big individual mistake. And letting big Gabriel have a free header in the box. Vicario had no chance. Yeah, disappointing, but I felt like it was coming, to be fair, off a set piece. I thought Arsenal had a few decent set pieces and it was coming. And as you see, look, Romero just not even marking his man. Very disappointing. But yeah, it's a shame, Chris, because I thought Arsenal, I didn't get to say anything, the other chaps did, but I thought Arsenal weren't there on their top form today. I thought they definitely were there for the taking. But when a team doesn't play well, but still gets a result, that's a sign of a good team, and that's what Arsenal did today.
Josh, look, what did you make of this? And Dustin, feel free to jump in. This is just as the corner's taken. That's Romero marking Gabriel. I mean, apart from that, he's got his back to him, and he's not goal side. Now, I was never a defender, but I would say he's in a slightly wrong position there. And what does it for me is where they are and where he is when Gabriel scores. For me, he's just lost him. It's all very well going man for man, and part zonal, but I'm sure that if he's man for man there, he should be man for man there, no?
Yep. And if you don't mind, if you go back to the previous slide, I know there's still a lot of people in chat going, Vicario should have commanded it. Look at the number of players in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players. And there were lots of Arsenal players that deliberately knew, look at it, it's the penalty spot, right? So they have a signal that they've given out. Header run to the penalty spot, we'll have 4 players blocking it off. Vicario's not getting to that. It's a set plan. It's the kind of plan that we should have when we're taking an offensive corner, and we should be more creative with our set plays, because set plays are a different aspect of the game. So when Ange says, I don't want to have a set piece coach, I don't understand that conceptually, because set pieces are a completely different thing from open play. Open play, there's flow and everything. With a set play, you've got all the time in the world to get things in play. Your opponent has no idea what you're going to do. So if you can come up with a creative way of drawing them one direction, misdirecting them, blocking off the keeper, these are things where you can get a lot of advantage out of it. But we're not using that at all, and we're suffering the disadvantage of not preparing for it either.
I think as well, Chris, if you want to jump in, give us your opinion on this. At the back, Kulusevski there, I'm not quite sure what he's doing. Goals. He's not exactly goal side of Arsenal's number 5.
Yeah, I completely agree, Craig. It's frustrating to see this, because there are so many Spurs bodies in the box, and as Dustin said there, that other slide that you showed of Vicario's view, he probably wouldn't have seen a lot of the ball when the ball was going through the defenders. But it's just such a disappointing goal again to concede. It really is.
Yeah, for me, I mean, Josh, you got anything to add on that? I mean, for me, that positioning where Romero is there on the image on screen, and apologies for viewers on audio, you're going to have to use your imagination on this one, but Romero's just totally out of position, and I'm not sure who he thinks. The image is probably better in this. Sorry, beg your pardon, not that one. It's this one. Who's supposed to be picking him up if it's not Romero?
It is.
He's got it all wrong, hasn't he, Craig? It's poor. It's a big individual error from Romero there, and yeah, you can see it when you rewatch the clip. It's poor. It's a poor error, and it's cost us.
And going back to set pieces, so one of the best signings we had during the Conte era was Giovanni Vio, because that was when our set piece, our goals from set pieces and goals conceded from set pieces were among like the top 3 in the league. Since we have lost our set piece coach, we've gone to being one of the worst. So you can't tell me that set pieces are not a thing and you don't need to coach set pieces differently. Liverpool have a throw-in coach. So there are these aspects of the game where Ange is a little bit like gammon and old man about it, which is like, don't really believe in data, don't really believe in set piece coaches. There are aspects of it where you've got to look at it and go, there is room for improvement there here. And I understand if he doesn't want a coach that comes in and screws up with his hierarchy, but you've got to look at the position we had when we had Giovanni Vio and conclude that we were significantly better on set pieces when we had a dedicated set piece coach.
What about this for a comment here? Ange Postecoglou in his press conference, he was asked if Spurs can win a trophy this season, and his reply was, I don't usually win things. I always win things in my second year.
Wow.
Right. Let's carry on. 68 minutes gone. Bentancur off, Johnson off, Sarr on, Odegaard on. After 73 minutes, Son and Maddison pass to one another. Again, no shot. Extremely frustrating. 10 minutes to go when we need a game changer. Of course, we bring Timo Werner on, and James Maddison went off. At that point, we went into a 4-2-3-1 with Son in the number 10 position. Craig, what have you made of Sonny this season? Because a couple of goals against Everton. He's had a lot of criticism from a lot of Spurs fans. Some Spurs fans have said he's lost pace. I said earlier, I feel that Sonny in particular, his pressing has been exceptional this season. But in games like this is when you need your captain to really step up, G everybody up. What have you made of him? What do you make of him this afternoon?
I don't think he had his best game today, Sonny. And look, it's okay to criticise players as long as it's constructive and you keep it polite. I haven't got a problem criticising Son's performances. I think anybody that watches football can see that he's been a bit off it. I thought he was great against Everton. I remember, I think I was on the pod after Everton. I said, if anybody thought he'd lost his pace the way he nicked that ball off Pickford, he clearly hasn't. It just might be his reaction time that's got a bit slower. He didn't have his best game today. I thought it was a quiet game for Son. Didn't really create much. I just want to see Sonny go back to that, what we were discussing earlier, just cutting in and shooting with his right foot, curling it into that far corner. That's how he scored against Arsenal a couple of years ago, of course. And how many times have we seen him do it? Not just against Arsenal, against loads of teams in the league. And he's one of those rare players that is just as strong on his left side as his right. So it hasn't got to be his right foot. His dad made him practice his left foot. That's what I agree with his dad about. I've always said, you're a professional footballer, you should be able to kick with both feet. And Sonny can. So I think it's not wrong to say we want a bit more from our captain. We do. He should be leading them. And he should be putting in captain's performances. And the same would go for Maddison as vice captain and Romero for vice captain as well. But yeah, Sonny didn't have a very good game today. I do wonder whether he's going to get rested in the week. I think at 32, I think he does need to juggle that. And I think you're going to see and I know we'll come on to discuss it, I think we'll see a change for the midweek game. But he's trying, like you say, he is trying, Chris. He's pressing, he's brilliant. And that's what that's what I want to see him doing as a captain. I want to see him leading from the front almost. And if he's leading the press, Solanke's pressing, Kulusevski's pressing, Johnson's pressing. So he does that part well, but I don't think he had his best game today, no.
Josh, let's come to you. Actually, before I do, let me just say that there's nearly 4,000 people watching this stream, which is a record on this channel for a live stream. So if you don't subscribe to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button and put your comments in. Let us know how you are feeling right now on this season so far. And of course, the 1-0 defeat at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Arsenal today. Josh, after 82 minutes, Pedro Porro crossed in. Everyone was in where they should have been. But this particular time, the cross actually came behind. We have been so frustrated as Spurs fans, particularly the Newcastle game a couple of weeks ago, where we're saying, just whip that ball in, as Brennan Johnson did in, I think it was the 93rd minute at Newcastle. No one in there. Lots of bodies in there today, but of course the cross went behind. Son with a shot wide moments later, and then in the 89th minute, Solanke with a tame header at the goalkeeper, and Heung-min Son with a shot over the bar. Now, you mentioned the Coventry game midweek earlier today on the stream. Of course, Carabao Cup third round on Wednesday evening. How would you expect and how would you like Ange Postecoglou to set up in this game? Because, when you look at last season, 10 changes against Fulham, out of the League Cup in the second round, out of the League Cup in August. Ange Postecoglou has again said he wins trophies in his second year. Is this our time? Is this the trophy that Ange Postecoglou is going to be after? Are we going to go strong on Wednesday night?
Well, actions speak louder than words, Chris. If he makes 10 changes, we lose to Coventry. And I'll say that with my heart as a Tottenham fan. I think a lot of other Tottenham fans will probably feel the same because we've done it so many times, not just under Ange, but other managers. I think he's got to go strong. I think, like you said, probably drops on. He's 32 now. I think he has lost a bit of his pace. But keep the team strong. Give Solanke his minutes. Get Brennan Johnson in there playing against lesser opposition, but someone who can give them the confidence if they have a good performance. We've got to beat Coventry. There's absolutely no excuses if we don't beat Coventry, and it will just be another Spursy outcome if we don't. And obviously out of another cup so early in the season like last year against Fulham, that's unacceptable and cannot happen this year. But have we got the kind of the grouse and the ability to win the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup or the Europa League even? I'm not sure. As we said, if we play like we are at the moment, we're not going to win any trophies this year. I think we competed but didn't win any trophies under Poch and under those great times when we played amazing football and scored lots of goals and had a great side. Our team is not as good as then, but we're expecting trophies. I'm not sure that's rational. Unless we drastically improve, then perhaps with this team in the future, with a few additions, we might challenge for a trophy. But in all honesty, after today, after kind of in this context, I don't see us winning a trophy this year. And I hope you can use this clip if we do win a trophy to prove me wrong, Chris. But as it is at the moment, I don't see us winning a trophy because we've gone backwards. And it's horrible to say that, but we're not as good as we used to be. We haven't got the players that we used to have. And unless they drastically improve, nothing's going to change, Chris.
Give me a score prediction, Josh.
I think it's going to penalties. And I can't tell you who's going to win.
Dustin, how are you feeling ahead of Wednesday's game? Because for me personally, I would love to see us go as strong as possible. But of course, I understand Ange Postecoglou will be thinking ahead to the next game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Of course, Saturday against Brentford. That is not going to be an easy game. No easy games in the Premier League. But it's very, very important for the football club, I feel, that we get through to the next round of the Carabao Cup. How strong do you think he will go?
I think that he will go strong-ish, but not full strength. So I think the thing about the cups, and this isn't a binary thing. It's not we have to put our first team in the cups or we put a second team entirely. I think that approach doesn't work because if you have an A team, B team kind of approach, what happens is that you have a B team that has never played against competitive opposition together, and then you go, everyone on our B team is trash. I think that what you need to do is you have to have the bones of the first team there, and maybe you swap in some players so that they get a chance at developing chemistry with their partners. Because if you always have Romero and Van de Ven, and then someone gets injured and you put Dragusin in, he's never developed chemistry with his centre-back partner, which is one of the most important partnerships in the team. So we need the opportunity in the Cups for our backup players to develop chemistry with the team. Otherwise, we drop players in and we go, oh, Archie Gray is trash, Bergvall is trash, because we've never seen them with the first team. So I think that we need to put a strong team in, but we need to put on some of the players that we think may have made a difference in the second half of this game, for example. Because I would have loved to see Bergvall come on or Gray come on and provide a little bit of creativity, which we were lacking in the final third. When Odeberg came on, he actually created more chances than I think the rest of the team did in all the time before that. So I think that we have new young players, and maybe they can't be trusted yet with the North London derby. You should be able to bleed them in Coventry so that they can prove themselves there and then maybe make it into the next game after that. Because if you don't test them out in the Cups, you're never going to know if they'll make it in the first team. Because if you throw 10 changes in, then they'll all look trash because they don't have chemistry and they haven't played together as much.
Dustin, what's your score prediction?
2-1. Spurs.
Craig, how are you feeling ahead of this Coventry game on Wednesday evening?
Very weird. It's one of those games we should be winning. Let's not be about the risk. We should be winning. And look, they got lucky en route to the semi-final last year. I thought they were unbelievably unlucky not to get through to the final. What a story that would have been. However, I think Ange will make some changes. I think Spence will come in. I think Dragusin will come in. I think one of Archie Gray or Bergvall will come in. I think Odeberg will come in. Don't ask me for who, because I haven't got a clue. Could be rest Porro and bring Spence in. I think Romero gets a rest for Dragusin. But other than that, I don't know. I think there will be changes, 3 or 4. I don't think you can say that's not a strong lineup, even if he does that. I think that should be good enough to beat Coventry. But to be honest, I thought the team that we put out against Fulham should have been good enough to beat Fulham. And of course we didn't. And that's the key. People saying we go strong. Our strongest team doesn't look very strong at the moment. That's the problem we've got, right? And the fact Bergvall and Gray didn't get on today, as you said, Chris, it kind of speaks volumes. Is it that you don't trust them in big games? Is it that didn't think tactically they would have fitted in. Personally, I'd have liked to have seen. They must be chomping at the bit to get on. Even bring Spence on, put him on the wing. I've always said push Porro up. He can play on the wing, put Spence at right back. There's so many options available to him. I'm not overly confident with this, and it's purely down to the fact recent performances, and especially today. But Coventry is a team, with all due respect, we should be beating. So because of that, I'm going to say I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs as well myself. But do you know what? This is not going to be easy. This really isn't going to be easy. I think the next 2 games are pivotal for Ange, to be honest with you, because I can't even comprehend losing the next 2 games. But if we lose in the Carabao Cup, I think Ange is under pressure. I think he really is.
I think that Spurs will win this game 2-0. That's what I'm going to go with. I certainly hope so anyway. Just get through to the next round. I think it's very difficult to try and predict what Ange Postecoglou is going to do in terms of team selections and how many changes, because when you saw him make 10 changes last year, I know it's going to be different this time, but I just hope that it's not anywhere near as many. But it will be interesting on team selection. And what you said there, Craig, about we have more than enough quality to win these games. I feel like I've said that so many times during so many years, during the spells of so many managers. Colchester, Pochettino. I said it a couple of years ago. Sheffield United, Conte. The team that the manager puts out, yes, they were full of internationals, full of players, top quality players that should have won the game, should have got the job done, but didn't. But hopefully we can get the job done on Wednesday evening.
Well, at least we've never lost to a team that had a manager in jail.
Oh. Europa League, here we come, Dustin. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one as well.
I think that's our best chance of a trophy. I mean, I'm with Josh. I don't think we're going to win a trophy this year. I really don't. But I think our best chance is the Europa League, because it's one that we're you're going to be up against, on paper at least, a bit easier opposition in the group stage at least, and it should be in that we should have enough to get through, and then by February time you would think we would be in a stronger position with another transfer window to go again. But I really don't. I can't sit here and say hand on heart I'd love to be coming here and be positive and just tell everyone, look, no, don't worry about it, it's all going to be fine, we're going to win a trophy. I can't say that because I don't think it's true, and I come on here and I'll tell you exactly what I think, and I hope I'm wrong. But I don't think we've got it in us to win a trophy this year. But I think the best chance we've got is Europa.
I agree with you, Craig. And the reason I agree with you is because it feels like sometimes the players can't get themselves up for a cup game because they feel it's beneath them. But a European trophy, for some reason, gets them going. So I feel like it's a combination of there's enough motivation for the players and the opposition. It's not Champions League. It's still going to be difficult, but the opposition is going to be a little easier. And I don't know how the new format will work as well. So I think there's enough flux going on in there that it's possible to get something out of it.
Can I just ask, just before we go, something that you said, Craig, about one new player from last season in the starting 11 today. Of course, during the summer, during pre-season, we saw so many of the young development players taking opportunities and their chances extremely well. We quite often saw that in the second half, when the team changed completely, they did actually better than the main players, the main first team players. Are you surprised? You've all just nodded there. Are you surprised, any of you, that a lot of these players haven't been given the opportunities in the opening Premier League games, particularly how they did in pre-season? Or is it still too early?
I personally think I am surprised, in answer to your question. I am surprised they haven't been given a bit more game time. All right, Will Lankshire's been injured. Archie Graham-Berger, Archie Graham's a £40 million player. So why are you keeping him on the bench? Yes, you could turn around and say when these players come on in the second half, the other team we're playing against the opposition have changed their lineup as well a little bit. So perhaps they're playing against lesser opposition. But for me, what I saw in these players in pre-season, I think they're good enough to challenge. I think they're good enough to put in a shift and be given a go. I think that's all you can say on the matter. I think they're ready. Certainly think Archie Gray's ready. I think Bergwell's ready. So sling them in, give them a go. They can't do worse than he's proved today. The players that are out there just aren't doing the job. That's why you've got a squad. So give them a chance. And I hope they do get a chance against Coventry on Wednesday, and I hope they take it.
Dustin, Josh, do you want to say anything on that, or no?
I think we need to give these players a chance because they will surprise you. So I feel that the best signings we've made haven't been the expensive signings, right? We agree. I mean, there were times last season or the season before. There are times last season we thought Udogie was the best left back in the league. So I think that there are players that are coming in young and hungry, and the best part about them is that they haven't learned failure, and they are listening to the manager, adapting to the system. I feel that with older players, sometimes it's not just a stamina thing or as a fitness thing. Sometimes it's just you can't unlearn how you've been coached previously. And young players have they're almost like the best conduit for a manager that has ideas. And I think through that we will see the expression of what Andrew's ideas are, and then maybe we can judge whether those ideas work or not. But I feel that with young players, there's less unlearning to do about how the game should be played, and they're more like open vessels which go, okay, I will follow your instructions because you're the gaffer, and that's what I have to do to get into the team. So there's the combination of the hunger and the application of like concepts where you can start seeing what the manager's vision actually is.
Dustin, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I'm sorry to bring you on after a defeat, particularly against our North London rivals, but hopefully you can come back on the channel very, very soon. You've had a lot of love and a lot of very positive comments. A lot of people agree with what you said today on the podcast, so thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you if they'd like to follow you on social media, and what are you up to at the moment?
I'm on Twitter at Luminar Coys. That's Come On You Spurs.
Well, thank you so much, Dustin. Look forward to having you on again soon. Josh, thank you so much. It's been a long time, but thank you so much for all of your input today. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can probably find me on Twitter. I didn't put it on there, but yeah, Josh Cowham on Twitter. Try not to say too much on there. Try not to argue with too many Spurs fans. But yeah, just finished university. On to the next steps. It's nice to come back on. It's been a tough couple of months. Shame about the result, but come on, you Spurs. And someone's trying to take you away, Chris.
The stadium is just closing, so I'm heading out. So, Craig, where can people find you? And be quick.
Yeah, at Dearman9 on X if you want to give me a follow. That'd be lovely. Thanks for having me on. Shame we couldn't get a win, but let's hope for something better on Wednesday. I think I'm back Wednesday, so yeah, I hope to be talking about a win.
Well, thank you for watching, everyone. We've so far had 12,000 views on this stream, which is incredible. So thank you so much for your support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will see you Wednesday evening when hopefully 4 of us will be smiling that Spurs are into the next round of the Carabao Cup. Enjoy the rest of your weekend if you can. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.